It's Tuesday, August 28th, 10:20 a.m. I've been praying and I feel like I've been called to give my testimony. This is all very new to me. This is going to be the first time I ever tell my testimony to anybody and give my full kind of story. So, um, yeah, I'm going to try to just explain it all. My last suicide attempt was February 24th, the weekend of February 24th, and that is when I had my spiritual experience. Um, so I'm going to kind of go from there, what led up to that, because obviously it didn't work. I'm still here. So I was adopted into a white family. I'm brown, I'm Mexican. I kind of look Filipino, but I'm not. I'm Mexican, and it's kind of started off from there. My mother and father were drug addicts, and I believe that's what led up to me being put up for adoption. And I believe that my mother used heroin when I was a baby, so even before I was born, I was doing drugs. That is not a good thing. And I was raised in a really good family out here in California, and I just never felt like I fit in. I got a picture right here. I am the brown sheep, as I like to say. I kind of stick out like a sore thumb. I don't look anything like my family. This is my sister. That's my sister. That's her husband. That's her husband. My mom, my dad, my nephews. Never felt like part of the family. I felt loved. I felt taken care of. I felt I was spoiled as shit. Um, yeah, I definitely had a good life. Like I look back on it now and I'm grateful for what I have. But at the time, all I felt like was I don't look like these people. I don't feel like these people. I always felt a sense of like abandonment, sense of being different and kind of like an outcast. Like I said, I called myself the brown sheep, and I had very good parents. My mother was a lawyer. My dad was a manager at Anheuser-Busch, and they did a really good job of taking care of us. With all my issues with my adoption, when I found out I was adopted around like 5 or 6, I had a huge emotional breakdown. I was like, why did my mom not want me? What did I do wrong and all this stuff? And it affected me from that point on. I just kind of like became, there was this hole and there was this void in me where I felt like I wasn't wanted or needed in the world and by my family. I just didn't understand what was going on. I was so young and I didn't understand why my parents didn't want me. So that led to a huge pain and a huge void in my heart. So around 7 years old, I remember being very happy. I love California, and it was going well, and then we moved to Georgia, and I remember that's when all this problem started. I immediately started getting picked on, bullied, and I went back to my parents, and to be honest, like my parents were pushovers. Like they didn't tell me to stand up for myself. They told me to run, and in my heart, I didn't believe that was right. So from the age of like 7 or 8 till probably late 20s. I'm 34 now. Late 20s, I was getting picked on in jobs, at schools. So I was always a really, really skinny kid. I was very, very skinny. No matter how much I ate, I would always get picked on. I was loud, obnoxious. And then, age 14, I discovered alcohol, and that filled the void. It felt like it was like a magic potion. Like this veil came over, was just taken off of my mind, and like all the fear, all the crazy chatter, all the noise, it just kind of like was like swept away from alcohol. And I was like, man, I can come out and play now. Like I felt so like hidden inside my mind, under the fear, under the pain, under the insecurities. It was just so painful to like be alive. And alcohol, when I drank it, it just completely, just everything bad went away. It wasn't that everything good came out. It just seemed like it took all the fear away, all the insecurity, and it was kind of just like a pure me. And that's probably the worst thing that ever could have happened, because life would never be the same without going to alcohol, because I didn't know how to feel that way. I didn't know how to get rid of my internal issues. So the first suicide attempt I had was around 16, 17. I was just miserable. I felt tormented. I didn't see a point in life. I didn't feel like I had any type of family. I knew I had a family, a caring family that loved me, but I never got along with my dad. We're like oil and water, as my stepmom says. We're like oil and water. And to be honest, my biggest resentment towards him is he is a compulsive bullshitter. He's a compulsive liar. And as a man growing up, you have these questions for your dad. And I figured out the hard way that he was basically just making stuff up. And if he didn't know anything, he would just make stuff up. And that was soul crushing, self-esteem crushing to me. So I grew up skinny, sick all the time with not any confidence in anything. I didn't trust my dad. My mom was a helicopter mom, very loving, but she was too loving. I never had my own problems. I was very spoiled and very kind of just taken care of. I didn't know how to solve my own problems because my parents solved them for me, even as a young man. And so the age of like up into my 20s, still getting picked on. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to do anything in my life. I just wanted to party. And that's like the rock star life. Like, I thought that's what happiness was just driving nice cars, having a nice body, showing off like how many women you slept with. And I thought that was like the road I wanted to go down. I thought that was like the party lifestyle. That's freedom. And I didn't feel free. I felt trapped in my mind. I felt like from the age of like 7 to like 14 until I got alcohol, there was kind of like, if I look back on it now, if somebody could like cast a spell and say you're going to be confused and put a veil over your mind, like your mind's eye, and say you're going to be confused, you're going to live in darkness, you're not going to know your purpose, you're going to feel hopeless, and kind of just living in that world in my head. I looked fine on the outside. I looked healthy. I was smiling a lot, but like internally, you never know what somebody's going through. So I was just lost in darkness, just stuck in my head all the time, insecure. I had this just like sick feeling in my stomach, like I'm going to die one day early. I'm going to kill myself, because I was like, I can't live like this. Like literally, it's like living in hell on earth. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. I was scared all the time. And alcohol stopped being as effective as it once was, which usually happens with drugs and alcohol. So that's what led to my first suicide attempt. It was around 16, 17. I just thought I was like, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm not living like this. And, I took a bunch of pills. I didn't even know what they were. They weren't narcotics or anything. I think they were like allergy pills or something. I was just like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. Went to the hospital. I was throwing up. Went to rehab, in and out of rehab, up into my mid-20s. So I was just like a wreck up until like 25, 26. Then I was trying to get my life straightened out. Always had a hard time keeping jobs. And that's another thing, is like the biggest thing in my life was like, I don't know what career I want to do. And that was like the like biggest thought, like you're going to be a failure. All my family went to college. I have a bunch of lawyers and stuff, and my aunts and uncles, and they all judge me like you need a college education if you want to be anything in your life. And I always wanted to start my own business, but I felt like I would be shunned from my family. All these lawyers and successful people telling me, oh yeah, you're not going to be an entrepreneur. You're too stupid. Like people in my family literally said this. People in my job said this. I never was good at work, so I tried to kill myself again. A few years later, I believe I took another dosage of pills, and then around 25, 26, that's when I moved back in with my parents, and my mom suddenly got sick around, it was 2010, I believe I was 26, 27, or around then, and within a week she died of heart failure, and that was one of the biggest, most messed up things in my life. And immediately, it was very bad, but looking back, I immediately grew up because, you know, like I said, she was a helicopter mom. She always took care of my problems. So I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it did help me grow up as a man a little bit. Although my heart will never be the same. You know, I miss her. She's my mom who raised me. She loved me. I loved her. I was a mama's boy. And I will always miss her, and I know that I'll see her again. But yeah, that was a very, very, very traumatic time for me and my family. My dad, we're very worried about him because he's kind of a pushover in the sense that he needed her, and without her, he didn't feel like he wanted to live, and just we were scared for him. Anyways, he remarried. He found a great woman, and we were all happy for him. But to get back on kind of my journey is you know, still drinking, trying to, I've always prayed to Jesus. I've always prayed, and I kind of like, you know, please, if you're real, come into my life. And like from like early teens to late 20s, it just like nothing was happening, like nothing. Like I was in AA, I was in you know, rehabs and praying to God and stuff, and I learned a lot of stuff. Like the principles in AA are very good. They have biblical principles about, you know, serving others and you know, praying, getting on your knees and praying, asking God for help even though you don't know who He is. And you know, that was great. I learned a lot from AA, but I realize I'm not a real alcoholic. There's a bunch of stuff I can go into with AA, but I'm not a real alcoholic. I don't need to be in those rooms. So this is all going on, drinking, just feeling lost, this void in my heart, just this gnawing every day. It's almost impossible to describe the darkness, level of hopelessness I felt from age 14 to this last suicide attempt at the beginning of this video. The way I felt every day was literally, I weigh 1,000 pounds. There's chains, spiritual chains, invisible, heavy emotional baggage that was just like getting heavier. And I kept praying, like, God, if I have to live like this, I'm gonna take my life. Like, this is not how I can go anymore. I've lived, you know, my entire life like this from 14 to basically 34, 35. Wait, I'm only 34. 33, 34. And so I tried to take my life again. And then I'll backtrack a little bit. I was working out in California, out here. I moved out here again after my mom passed. And I just tried to get away from all that negativity and just kind of like craziness that was going on. I got sick May 2015. I was working out almost 5-6 days a week. I was always skinny, like I said. So this is like my saving grace. I found the gym and I got huge. I was like 180 pure muscle, like just strong. I felt strong. I was just like, I was in charge of my life. I felt mentally strong. I could go to work, do a physical job, and go after work to the gym for an hour and a half and lift and just get all my anger out, just my frustration. And I was doing this for about a year, and then that was my passion. I thought that was like my number one in life was like the gym. Like, this is my savior. This is everything. Like, all I need is the gym to be happy. And it really felt that way. It really, really felt that way. I was like loving life. I was like dating a bunch of women and just like kind of my drinking had slowed down, and I was just working a good job. I had a car, you know, living a really good life that I was always doing stuff on the weekends, hanging out with my brother, hanging out with friends. And I got sick May 2015. My stomach, for no reason, I don't know what happened. It felt like a vice was just gripping it. And to this day, it still hasn't, doctors can't figure out what's going on. But I literally got fired from my job because I couldn't work anymore. And I was dating this girl, Katrina, who at this time we were just dating, but I got sick while I was dating her, and she stuck with me this whole time, and now I'm glad to say she is my fiance. But I got sick, and I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I was so fatigued. I would wake up crying every day. I was in so much pain. Just fatigue. My stomach just stopped working. Like everything in my digestive system from the top to the bottom. I couldn't go to the bathroom. It was like extremely painful. I was starving, but I was scared to eat. And it was just this intense fear like I'm dying. Like my whole body felt like it was shutting down. I would go to the doctors and be terrified and be like, can you help me? Can you help me? And they were just like, you're being a baby. You're being lazy. Like you have a tummy ache. Like, and they do tests and be like, your blood work's fine, because I would still eat healthy and still try to get some exercise, but like it was terrifying. I thought I was dying. I couldn't work. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. And this is when Katrina really stepped in. She started coming around a lot more. I started dating her only. I was seeing a couple other women, and she really stepped in and showed me like unconditional love, and I didn't understand it, you know. I thought we were just like really good friends and just hanging out, you know. And basically, I went to doctors over the past 3 years. They still haven't figured much out, but the one test that came back is the CRP levels. I get these flare-ups and pain in my entire body, which are just unbearable. They feel like my body's just rotting. I still haven't been able to work out the same. I try to walk in the mornings, but it's still really hard for me. Every time I go walking, even for 30 minutes to an hour, I come back fatigued, and for like 3 hours I have to lay in bed. It's unexplainable. The doctors haven't given me any help, and I'm still kind of dealing with it. And that is one of the reasons what led me up to my last suicide attempt. It was the weekend of February 24th, 25th. My fiance, but girlfriend at the time, she went out of town. I had this planned in my mind for months. Just like I said, the devil, or if I could like paint a picture, something put a spell on my mind. Like, just as an example, it felt like somebody put a spell on my mind, a veil over my eyes, just lost in darkness, and this obsessive, just suicidal thoughts. Just, your life is not worth it. You're going to end up dead anyways. You're going to end up killing yourself. These were the real thoughts that inhabited my mind. And you're not good enough. You're never going to make any money. You're never going to make over minimum wage. Some of the most haunting thoughts were those, and just like, you're never going to feel better. You know, look at all these things you've tried and failed at. Look at you now. You can't even work out. Like, just these tormenting thoughts. And once I lost my health, I lost almost all hope. Like, once you have your health, and I went from the strongest I've ever been to the weakest I've ever been within a week. And now I'm still pretty much the weakest I've ever been, but I've grown in different ways. So I took 90 lorazepam, the suicide attempt before my last one. I didn't die. And I've heard of people dying of just taking 10 and mixing drinks with them. I took 90 lorazepam, and I know that doesn't sound believable, but I wanted to die. My fiance can attest to this, that I got a new prescription. They gave me 90 lorazepam. I was taking 2 to 3 a day, so I got 2 or 3 a day. So I had 90 full pills, and I was planning on taking it. I drank a half bottle of vodka before I passed out in my car, and then she took me to the hospital. I woke up, and I was fine. I was pissed off. I was like, what the fuck? I woke up. And So my last suicide attempt, sorry if I'm scatterbrained, I'm trying to do this all off memory. My last suicide attempt, I had three different plans. If one didn't work, I was going to do the other. I was researching the easiest ways to die. I bought some charcoal because I heard that was the most painless death. You know, you hear about carbon monoxide poisonings. Um, so I was trying to debate whether I was going to do it in my house or in my car. When she left, I taped up everything in the bathroom and realized people might smell everything and they're probably going to call the cops or something. So I planned the next day. I lit the charcoal in a grill at a park nearby, and I put it in my car. And actually, the night before that, I tried to hang myself too. After that didn't work, after I took the tape off, I stuck a belt in my door and I put the noose around me, and I tried as hard as I could to push, but it was too scary and too painful. I don't know, I'm just a big wuss, but too scared to live, too scared to die, that type of thing. And I kept praying. I was like, Jesus, if you're real, save me. Jesus, if you're real, save me, because I can't do this anymore. I was like, I'm going to do it. I don't want to be alive anymore. Tried the charcoal thing. I ended up burning my car. There's still a burn mark in my seat today, in my front seat, because I was drunk. I couldn't kill myself sober. And anyways, that was a failed plan. So that was the last suicide attempt. The next day, February 25th, is when my spiritual experience happened. My girlfriend at the time, Katrina, came home, and she said, you know, I have to leave, because I told her everything. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I want to hurt myself. I don't want to be alive anymore. And she said, I have to leave. And something inside me broke. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it. I broke down in tears, and just like something from deep inside me, just kind of like, I was starting to see weird visions, and something like just kind of like was trying to leave me or something. And there was some spiritual warfare going on. I didn't know what it was at the time. And then we went to bed that night, and I was just crying and crying and crying, because I thought, you know, I just tried to kill myself. I don't want to be alive. And now my girlfriend's leaving me. I don't have a job. I'm still sick. I can't work. I don't have any real money coming in. I think I was on disability. Yeah, I was on disability for the past couple years, because the doctor knew that I couldn't work. And I was like, my disability is about to run out. I tried to kill myself. I don't know what I'm going to do. And now my girlfriend's leaving me. And then this is when I feel like God intervened, because we went to bed that night, and I woke up, or I didn't even sleep. We were up till like 4 or 5 a.m. And all of a sudden I started getting goosebumps, and I felt this evilness in the room, and it was just hovering over us. And there was this evil that was inside of me. And this is what, I'm getting goosebumps right now, talking about it. But yeah, I kept getting these goosebumps, and it was this evil, it was like this friend. It was like this thing that I've known all my life. It was like since childhood. It was like a friend that I was remembering, and it was like hovering over me. And it was just this like, I was like, I know you. I was like, who are you? And Katrina was like, I was like, I feel something in the room. I'm really scared. And I was showing her my goosebumps. I was like, something's in the room right now. She's like, I feel it too. That's how I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't just seeing anything, or this wasn't a mental thing or emotional thing. Like, Katrina felt it in the room. She's very spiritual. She's a Christian. She's been praying for me, and she immediately started praying. And this thing is, you know, I kept vomiting and throwing up. I don't know if it was because I was hungover, because I was drinking all weekend, but as she said, as soon as she started praying for the devil to leave or get out, or for me to be protected, I would go to the bathroom and throw up like the demons were leaving me. I still don't know, because every time I'm hungover I throw up, but it was weird because the entire day I wasn't throwing up. It was just that night, and it was like 4 a.m. So I mean, who knows? I mean, it was dry heaving, and I can say some more about what happened in the future about dry heaving and demons and stuff. Excuse me. But yeah, the evil thing, I would say, was there for about maybe 2 hours, and then we were just praying to go to sleep, and she was praying, and finally, I think at like 6 or 7, we fell asleep. We both woke up at 11 a.m., just a few hours of sleep, and the Holy Spirit is the only thing I could tell you that was filling our room. And the entire next day was just like, I felt like we couldn't stop talking. We talked from 11 a.m. to like midnight the next night we went to sleep. It was just like this portal has opened. The veil of my eyes were the darkness, like the veil was gone, and everything connected. The spirituality from her was connecting with the spirituality in me. Our whole relationship, she's known me for 3 years. She said there was this wall that when she would pray for me, it felt like nothing was getting through. When she would talk to me about God, I would just close up and it wouldn't get in. And now it was like we were just talking. Like, what is God? What is this? What do you think happened? And everything was just connecting. Like, I want to explain it as the Holy Spirit was just talking through us. And it was just filling me up with all this information. All this information was just pouring into me. Questions were going out. She was filling me up with answers. And I was just like, everything was just like one. We were just two mouths just talking through the Holy Spirit, that was with us. And it was just this lightness. And I had so many questions because I never believed in spiritual warfare. I thought it was a joke. I didn't understand it. My brother used to talk about it, saying that my family's cursed. I met my biological brother, and he's always said our family's cursed and our generations has been cursed. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't really believe in that, but whatever. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Jesus. Like, every time I heard Jesus' name, I kind of laughed and I kind of cringed. Like, people believe in that? Like Santa Claus? Dude, that's trippy, man. Like, whatever, dude, you're weird. I'm like a realist, I live in the now. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. And then the spiritual warfare thing happened to me. And people to this day, my therapist says it was an acceptance in my mind that, like, I just grew to accept myself. And, my stepmom was like, this bad guy must have been like, your bad past or bad emotions. And I'm like, no, this was evil. This was spiritual warfare. This was a demon. And I never believed in demons, ever. I can say that confidently. This was a demon. And it came back the next couple nights and was trying to mess with us. But I started doing a bunch of research. The first book I bought was Bondage Breaker. This is highly recommended if you're going through spiritual warfare. It has the steps through Christ. Freedom through Christ. This was the one that pretty much gave me like knowledge and power, and it has a bunch of prayers of what you can do to renounce and rebuke the demons and stuff like that could be holding you down. That was amazing. The thing that I realized, which was crazy, I searched on YouTube for how to deal with spiritual warfare, and there was so little on it. And that's what shocked me, is like, I never heard about spiritual warfare in my church. And I'm like, why have I never heard about this? That was the biggest thing that shocked me, is like, I wasn't prepared for this. I never heard about this in my church. And it just shocked me how little there is on spiritual warfare when this is real. And it made me kind of mad and sad and hurt that, like, they're not teaching how to deal with this stuff when it's real. Like, if God's real, the devil's real. That's what I realized. And if the devil's real, well, I realized the devil was real through the demons. And then I was like, okay, if there's demons and I was just saved from one, God's real. Like, that's what freaked me out. And that's why I'm mad at kind of like churches and stuff, because they're not teaching you that it is real. At least the ones I'm in my experience. And then if it is real, how to deal with it. Like, this was real. I almost killed myself. I had the spirit of suicide. That's what I realized. It was the spirit of suicide in me, because it's not there anymore. It is not there completely. I am mentally in a completely different place. I went from in the darkness, hopeless, to I know my destiny. I feel like lighter. I feel clearer. I know my purpose. I know that when I die, I'm going to heaven. Like, everything makes sense now. Before, it was nothing made sense. I didn't understand the point of life, and now everything makes sense. That's why I want to give this testimony, because I feel like it would be a waste to not give it. And I feel like if I can help one person with spiritual warfare, then this will be worth it. That's why I started this YouTube channel. I'm going to put all the books that I bring up right now in the description. The second one I bought, Neil Anderson, Freedom from Fear. I still haven't read this one all the way through. Prayers That Rout Demons. This is a good one. I go to this every now and then. It's not really a book that you read. It's kind of like if you go through something, you look up the chapter that you're going through and then read it. Boundaries. This is a good one because I've always had trouble in my relationships. I was just trying to learn every biblical truth to, like, how to live life. How do you want me to live, God? Like, so many questions. Like, my whole life started over. Like, that. If that's what it is to be born again, I was like born again because I'm like, this is crazy. What is happening? Like, my old life was like just complete wreck, mess. Just, I don't know who I was, and now it's like I know who I am. I know why I'm here. How do you want me to live now? What am I supposed to do? It was like this empty kind of like thing where I'm just like, I get to learn, like, live a new. And I bought this Bible immediately after. This is a good one, Joyce Meyer Bible. We were listening to a lot of mental warfare things, and I do believe the battlefield is in your mind. So this one was the reason why I bought that. I still have trouble reading the Bible. I still don't understand it, but I pray to God and ask Him for help to understand it, and it does help. I understand it more than I ever do, and I read it more than I ever do. I still have work to do on that, though. And then my favorite books so far: Out of the Devil's Cauldron by John Ramirez, one of the best teachers on spiritual warfare, I think, other than Neil T. Anderson. The book I'm reading right now, which is absolutely amazing, is Unmasking the Devil. I feel like this is the one that I would recommend the most. I feel like the devil or demons do infiltrate your mind, and it is very hard to understand the enemy when he's so good at deceiving people. And even when the church and people preach about all the good things in the church and God and everything you're supposed to worship and praise, but what I learned is, like, if you don't know about spiritual warfare and you don't know your enemy, then you're going to be susceptible to being attacked and being taken over. I mean, it's just like enemies and wars and gang territories. It's like the devil's trying to take over. He has a job to do. He wants to take over your life and your soul and your mind. And if we're just like, you know, doing all the things that are good in our life and praying, that's all good, you know, but if we're like myself, if we have the spirit of suicide, spirit of, like, let's say overeating, I don't know what other spirits there are, but I definitely have the spirit of suicide, like, and it's just in us, and we're like praising God, thank you. It's still there. We haven't gotten it out yet. And that's the thing that I want to teach other people, is from my experience, what I did and what worked for me. Unmasking the Devil is huge in my journey through my living like Christ, I would say. So a couple other things I wanted to talk about is these visions I had. The week after, demons don't come into you can't see them with your eyes. At least from my experience, what I saw was in my mind, and I felt it in my room. So what I saw was like a black triangle type face with like weird eyes. I couldn't really see the eyes though, but it was staring at me in my mind, and it moved to my bathroom, and I was just like, what? And I screamed for my fiance. I was like, Katrina, come in here. I was like, I think it's trying to come back. and I started doing these prayers. There's prayers in the book which basically you ask for Jesus to protect your family and cast out demons from your home. And to be honest, I never believed in any of this stuff. But since I prayed those prayers, my house feels lighter. It feels more peaceful. In my mind, it feels more peaceful. And I'm a believer now. I'm a complete 100% believer. And it's through experience, I think, that I had experience with it. Telling other people, like I tell my brother, you know, what experience I had, and he just doesn't understand. He doesn't get it. And I don't blame him, because I was the same way. And unless someone goes through something like this, it's hard to listen to it and really understand it, because it's like trying to describe a color green to a blind person. It's weird. So I understand. But the next vision I had was I was praying, and I was like, you know, I had all these questions, and just like another vision was in the shower, and just like, I was like, God, what are we doing here? Like, what are we, like, are we all your children, or like, who are we? And like, what are we as a human race? Like, what are we doing here? And it just, this vision of just like this earth and all these people walking around were just like, you're all my children. I made all of you, and you know, I love you and all this stuff. And I was just like, it was just so real to me. And I was just like, oh my God. And I screamed to Katrina, I just had another vision. I just had another vision. And it was just like, it was like these people just walking around not knowing how much they're loved and what they're here for. It's like people have the question, you know, why are we alive? What are we doing here on this planet, on this rock? You know, we just live and then we die. And it's like, there is a God that loves us, that made us. And, you know, there is a creator and a designer to the earth. And I'm still learning all of it. It's just like, I want to spread the love and the grace and the word, and just like teach people to unmask the dark side, and learn about how to protect yourself, how to get out of the dark side, why you are in the dark side, what can you do about it? Like, if you're being attacked with drugs or alcohol or porn, or, you know, overeating, you know, if these things are like from the spiritual side, I want to be able to uncover if it is like a demonic thing. I want to be the one to help, and I want to teach other people, you know, that this is real. Like, this is no joke. And now my life is circumstantially, it's the same. It is the absolute same. I'm still very weak in my body. I can't exercise very much at all, besides walking, and it still puts me into bed for 2 to 3 hours. And I have the same apartment with my girlfriend, or my fiance. I proposed to her on April 8th, her birthday weekend. So she stuck with me through all this, even though she said she was going to leave. She saw the change in me, and she decided to stay, because she was praying, because she was like, I can't change him, God. If you want us to be together, you know, you need to step in. And, you know, he did. And now we're getting married, and just crazy things are happening. Everything's coming together. I started doing eBay, because I can't really do physical work anymore, or sit down or do office work anymore. I can't sit or be in the same position for more than a few hours. And just everything's coming together. It's just like, my mind's different. My spirit, my heart feels full. Like, the holes that I had in my heart are filled with the Holy Spirit. I feel like that is what really happened. My mind, I feel like the devil had a veil over it, and was like confusing my thoughts, because I couldn't think straight. I couldn't get my words out straight a lot. Super fearful. My anxiety. I still have anxiety when I go out in public and stuff, just from being picked on so much in crowds. But my fear of living is gone. My fear of dying is gone. I know where I'm going when I die. I'm excited I still have the same. I don't want to be alive still. Like, I don't want to be, because I know where I'm going. I'm like, I want to go home, man. Who wouldn't want to go home? But the reason why I do like living is because I know why I'm here. I know that there is a God. I know that Jesus is real and with us. and I love my fiance, and I want to have a family. I want to stay here because I'm alive for a reason. If I wasn't gonna be here, I would have killed myself with those 90 liras of him. I'm sure of it. Like, I've been in car wrecks that I should have died in. I've tried to end my life enough times where I'm like, okay, there's got to be a reason why I'm here. So I can't wait to go home after I die, but I know that there's a reason for me to live. And I have a wonderful life now, and I want to teach other people maybe younger than me. I'm 34. If there's anybody else out there that has any questions on spiritual warfare, I can read some prayers from the books. If you have any specific things that you need prayer for, let me know. If you want me to make any specific videos on anything, or if you have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please pray and never cease praying. God shows up when you need him. And for 20 years, I didn't feel the presence of God. I couldn't see it, at least. I was in the devil's hands, and looking back, I just know it was the grace of God why I'm alive, and I know why I'm here now. And creating this channel is something I feel like he called me to do, and I'm getting goosebumps again. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Love you guys.